all of my multidimensional parts themselves are working in coherent union with this I am presence, because I declared my apex, I've accepted, and I continue not to give away power that would take me out of the apex point of coherent unity.
And that's so vital. I remember I was discussing with a friend of ours the other day about staying in absolute sacred neutral, not allowing yourself to go one way or the other, for putting yourself into polarity at these moments as we're endeavoring to find ourselves and really take on the porousness and malleability finally of this reality that we can start to really make manifest now. It was a really interesting conversation, because when it comes to personal, deeply personal things, relationships, trust, and as people go through their own changes, one has to in themselves remain sacred neutral, even though they felt hurt by that other being and their actions or non-actions. It's something that came so much into focus already in the beginning of this year. I mean, that's the first thing you said about this whole year to the audience, is staying in sacred neutral. Mm-hmm. And this is great, because when we work with things like remote view, it is key to be at that moment. You're just there as the observer, and in being able to practice these sorts of skill sets affords your soul at that moment to actually be, just for that moment that you're practicing that skill, in that sacred neutral, in that moment of now, in that beingness of all. And that gives yourself a respite just for that moment of the matrix. And some people, when they practice this skill, they find if they've practiced it for many, many, many hours, when they look at themselves in the mirror afterwards, they find that their skin is looking younger. For some reason, the aging process changed. You've noticed that as well? That's one of the great benefits of doing this kind of work that I also wanted to mention at one time point.
Once you learn the nature of connected sovereignty, you connect to a whole new different part of the life force.
Yeah. That
just is continuously feeding you, even though you may still have feeding tubes giving things to other parts of this reality. It's still nurturing that inside co-creative you, who's the inner child, still innocent and still ready to create with the world.
Yeah.
That's in everyone. And yes, attitude is everything. And at any moment, no matter how angry you are, you can flip into that.
Change it in a moment.
You can change it in a moment. It may not be pleasant, but you can change it and make a very special moments out of that. And I've been challenged with that in my life over and over and over again. Like I've told you, at times people expected me to be the trick dog everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And to the moment you go, no, I don't need to do any of that.
Yeah, I'm not the reason for your party. I'm just here as a guest, sort of thing.
I can't even begin to tell you how many emails a day that I get. Emails, Facebooks, all the things that people are asking me for 5 minutes of my time. If I did that, I wouldn't ever do shows, because there's 300-400 waiting all over. But all of that, that's why I do these shows. It's reached a point where this frequency I'm sharing, these skill sets that I'm sharing, I want to impart to you. And Debbie said something earlier, maybe by osmosis I can learn this skill. And for some people, they do learn it through osmosis. I do read the chat. I do go into the League of Consciousness Explorers, and I see people immersing themselves in how he does it, and they don't even care about the information. It's how he does it, because it comes out so much in a flow, and that's what they ultimately desire. And it's their own heart which will pull them into the direction of the truth of their information, but the mechanical part of what I do is what they're connecting to.
And
I've got a question.
Sure, go ahead, Debbie.
When you were talking about, and Natalie was talking about that as well, before a show, that you look into the future and see already what the show is going to be. Do you tune into all the people? Can you pick up all the frequencies of all of those people who are going to tune into your show and present the show along those lines?
Let's put it this way. Let's say I have a 5 o'clock show, and at 3:15 I finish doing whatever my day is doing, and I know I have an open time where I'm going to do nothing else other than get ready for a show. I do what's called a peek. I just let my third eye open up, and I just get a quick synopsis. It's like when you're watching your favorite TV show and you've been watching it for years, and they give you what happened the last couple episodes. I come in somewhere during the live show, and I get a quick synopsis. That's the first peak. The second peak is where I sit down and, all right, I'm ready to experience what the total potential of the audience is, where I let that synopsis be a synopsis of each individual person who's coming for a mechanical, spiritual, denial, whatever reason there. It adds up to a total amount of karma in the system because I'm still functioning in the system. And I take that value of karmic retribution, debt, whatever it is, and I raise the level of what my information is to zero out everything through the sacred neutral expression. During that time, each individual will be going through healings or impressions, ups and downs, which then ups and lowers that cap of what my total potential is. And then there comes a point where those that are dropping out take the energy lower, and there are those that are jumping above my labeled potential, where I can bring it up and up and up, and through individual words, soliloquies, I can hammer out to just individuals deep impressions of something they need to understand, and only come through the cadence and rhythm of the word, not necessarily the meaning. So that's that second synopsis, and then just before I go into a show, it's like dumping into the deep end of the cold pool.
Yeah. But I mean,
I got my little ritual that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times have you? I mean, I've when I've been looking at the chat, how many times have I been seeing those questions, and you've already started answering them before they were even. I mean, that was just so great because you've already tuned in, so you're taking that with the streams of how you can best serve the audience at that time. It's wonderful to watch. And a lot of the time, if you're not on the chat, there's so many synchronicities where things are being talked about or a question's asked, and Andrew will just out of the blue, he'll just answer it, or things that people have been really contemplating for a long time, and he'll just happen to talk about it, and they'll just be able to get their answers. And it's just so great when you get those emails when they share that experience, and it's worth all the preparation that you do for sure.
And for those out there that are new to the audience, this is tobacco. And one of the reasons I use tobacco, especially during shows like this where you guys are remote viewing, is we are keeping this area clear and clean. So I'm not trying to bring up a debate or an argument. Each person uses their plant medicine for their own purpose. Do not be in judgment. Do not be in justice. Just understand that each person's belief system is what takes them forward into their truth of what their words are. I don't recommend anyone to do anything unless your heart tells you to do it.